At every monastery where lotus flowers bloom, the monks do something that seems strange. Before planting seeds, they gather mud, thick, dark, smelling of decay. They know what gardeners everywhere know. Without mud, no lotus can exist. You're here because you're tired of suffering. Maybe you've been trying to think your way out of pain, distract yourself into happiness, or simply endure until things get better. We all do this. We all continue to suffer, even when we're doing everything we're told will make us happy. But suffering and happiness aren't enemies. They're not opposites fighting for space in your life. The art of being happy is also the art of knowing how to be with suffering, not to eliminate it, but to transform it the way mud becomes a lotus. This isn't about fixing yourself or forcing peace through positive thinking. It's about discovering that you already have what you need. Your pain, when met with tenderness instead of resistance, becomes the ground where joy grows. Over the next 3 hours, we're going to practice coming home to ourselves, not through struggle, but through the simplest thing you're already doing, breathing. If you'd like, share where you're listening from tonight. Find somewhere comfortable to rest. You're safe here. Let's begin with a single breath. The Buddha once sat with his students in a grove of trees, and he wanted to show them something about the nature of suffering. He asked them to imagine being struck by an arrow. The pain would be immediate, sharp, undeniable. Then he asked them to imagine a second arrow, striking the exact same spot. The pain wouldn't just double, it would become 10 times worse, maybe more. This is what we do to ourselves every single day. The first arrow is life itself. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your boss sends a terse email at 9 in the evening. You step on the scale, and the number isn't what you hoped. Your partner forgets something important to you. A friend doesn't return your call. The promotion goes to someone else. Your child struggles at school. A meal you cooked doesn't turn out right. These things happen. They're the first arrow. And yes, they sting. But then comes the second arrow, the one we fire at ourselves. You're stuck in traffic, and suddenly, you're not just annoyed about being late. You're thinking about how you should have left earlier, how you never plan well enough, how everyone else seems to have their life together, except you. The email from your boss becomes evidence that you're failing, that you'll never be good enough, that maybe you should just quit before they fire you. The number on the scale triggers an entire story about your lack of willpower, your broken metabolism, the body you'll never have. Your partner's forgetfulness means they don't love you anymore, that you're not important, that this relationship is probably doomed. The unreturned call becomes proof that you're not worth people's time, that friendships always fade, that you're fundamentally alone. The original pain, the first arrow, might last a few moments, but the second arrow, the one we shoot ourselves with, can hurt for days, weeks, even years. A woman loses her job. That's the first arrow, And it's real. There's genuine concern about money, about health insurance, about what comes next. But then she starts telling herself stories. I'm not good at anything. I'll never find another job. I've failed my family. I wasted years in the wrong career. Everyone will judge me. I'm falling behind while everyone else moves forward. I should have seen this coming. I should have worked harder. These thoughts are the second arrow, and they multiply her suffering tenfold. A man gives a presentation at work that doesn't go perfectly. He stumbles over a few words, forgets one point he wanted to make. The first arrow is mild, a moment of embarrassment, maybe some disappointment. But then he spends the entire evening replaying every moment, magnifying every small mistake, imagining what everyone must have thought. He lies in bed, unable to sleep, his mind building a case against himself. By morning, that small stumble has become evidence of his fundamental incompetence. He starts avoiding meetings, second-guessing every word he says, creating more anxiety around the very thing he's trying to do well. A parent snaps at their child after a long, exhausting day. The child's feelings are hurt. That's the first arrow. But then the parent spends hours, sometimes days, in a spiral of guilt and self-judgment. I'm a terrible parent. I'm damaging my child. I'm repeating the mistakes my parents made. They'll need therapy because of me. The second arrow of harsh self-judgment creates more suffering than the original moment of impatience. Here's what's tender about this teaching. The Buddha wasn't saying we're bad for doing this. He wasn't scolding anyone or suggesting we should feel ashamed for shooting ourselves with second arrows. He was simply showing us that we have a choice we didn't know we had. You can't always avoid the first arrow. Life includes loss, disappointment, physical pain, unexpected difficulties. Rain falls on your picnic. Bodies age and ache. People you love say thoughtless things. Plans fall through. Hopes don't always materialize. This is the nature of being alive, the nature of living in a world where everything changes, where nothing stays exactly as we want it. But the second arrow, the stories we tell, the judgments we make, the catastrophes we imagine, those are optional. Watch what happens when someone criticizes your work. The initial sting is the first arrow, but then notice what your mind does next. Does it replay the criticism over and over? Does it build a case for why you're incompetent? Does it imagine everyone at the office talking about your failure? Does it spiral into thoughts about how you'll never succeed, how you should give up, how you're not cut out for this? Does it start cataloging every other failure you've ever experienced as proof? That's you, picking up the second arrow and aiming it straight at your own heart. The practice isn't to become invulnerable to first arrows. The practice is to notice when you're reaching for the second one and to simply, gently put it down. Most of us have been shooting ourselves with second arrows for so long that we don't even notice we're doing it anymore. It's become background noise, the constant mental chatter that turns every small difficulty into evidence of our fundamental inadequacy. We've become so skilled at causing our own suffering that we do it automatically, reflexively, dozens of times a day. A colleague walks past without saying hello, and we're immediately wondering what we did wrong. A text message doesn't come as quickly as we hoped, and we're constructing elaborate theories about what it means. A minor physical sensation becomes a sign of serious illness in our minds. But here's the beautiful thing. Once you see the second arrow for what it is, once you recognize that you're the one holding it, you can choose differently. Not through force or self-discipline, but through simple awareness. Through the gentle recognition, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm taking something difficult and making it worse. I can stop. It's 3 a.m, and you're standing in front of the refrigerator. You're not hungry. Not really. You ate dinner a few hours ago. Your stomach isn't empty. But something pulled you out of bed, led you down the dark hallway, and now you're staring at leftovers you don't want, searching for something that isn't there. This is how most of us try to handle what hurts. There's a feeling inside. Maybe it's loneliness, maybe anxiety about tomorrow's meeting, maybe grief you haven't let yourself feel, maybe just a vague sense that something isn't right. It's like a child crying in another room. And instead of going to that room, instead of sitting with that child, we go to the kitchen. We go to our phones. We turn on the television. We pour another glass of wine. We open social media and start scrolling through other people's carefully curated lives. We do anything at all, to avoid being alone with ourselves. A man comes home from work exhausted, his body tight with stress, his mind churning through everything that went wrong during the day. He knows he should rest, maybe take a walk, maybe just sit quietly for a few minutes. Instead, he grabs his laptop and starts answering emails that could wait until morning. When that's done, he turns on a show he doesn't really care about, something familiar that requires no attention. The show ends, and he's still not tired, or rather, he's exhausted but wired. So he picks up his phone and disappears into an endless feed of news, opinions, arguments between strangers. By the time he goes to bed, hours have passed, and he hasn't spent a single moment actually being with himself. He's been running the entire evening, just in place. Tomorrow he'll wake up still tired, still carrying the same tension, still avoiding the same feelings. And the cycle will begin again. A woman finishes a difficult phone call with her mother. The conversation left her feeling small, criticized, misunderstood. Old wounds have been touched, old patterns activated. She could sit with this, let herself feel what's there, maybe cry, maybe just breathe through the hurt. Instead, she opens her laptop and starts shopping online. She's not looking for anything in particular, just clicking, scrolling, adding things to her cart, imagining how buying this or that might make her feel better. An hour passes. The hurt is still there, but now it's covered over with a thin layer of distraction, and she has a shopping cart full of things she doesn't need, and a credit card bill that will arrive next month. A young person lies in bed scrolling through social media, watching other people's lives unfold in perfect squares. Everyone looks happy, successful, loved. Everyone seems to have figured out something they haven't. The feeling of inadequacy grows with each swipe, but they can't stop. One more scroll, one more post, one more story. They're exhausted, their eyes hurt. They need to sleep, but something compels them to keep going. It's past midnight now, then 1, then 2. The phone has become a shield against the loneliness that waits in the dark. This isn't a moral failure. This is what we've learned to do to survive. Somewhere along the way, we absorbed the message that our pain isn't acceptable, that if we're not happy, we must be doing something wrong, that the goal is to feel good all the time. So when difficult feelings arise, and they always do, we've been taught to cover them up, push them down, distract ourselves until they go away. The problem is, they never go away. They just wait. Think about a child who's crying. If the mother ignores the crying, if she turns up the television to drown it out or leaves the house to get away from the sound, what happens? The child cries harder. The child's distress grows because the one thing they need, to be seen, to be held, to have someone acknowledge their pain, isn't happening. The child doesn't need their mother to fix the problem or make everything perfect. They just need her to be there, to say through her presence, "I see you. You matter. You're not alone." Your suffering is like that child. It doesn't want much. It doesn't need you to fix it, or figure it out, or make it disappear immediately. It doesn't need you to have all the answers, or transform into someone who never hurts. It just needs you to stop running. It needs you to turn toward it and say, "I see you. I'm here." But we're afraid. We're afraid that if we stop running, if we actually let ourselves feel what's there, it will overwhelm us. We think the sadness will swallow us whole. The anger will burn us up. The fear will prove that everything we worry about is true. We think that if we start crying, we might never stop. We think that acknowledging how much we're struggling means we've failed at being happy, at being strong, at having our life together. So we keep running. We work 70 hours a week and call it ambition. We fill every moment with noise and activity and call it productivity. We schedule ourselves into exhaustion and call it success. We consume food, alcohol, shopping, entertainment, information, anything to create a buffer between us and what we're feeling. The marketplace knows this about us. It knows we're desperate to avoid our own inner lives, so it offers us an endless supply of distractions. Buy this, and you'll feel better. Watch this, and you'll forget your problems. Click here for instant relief. Upgrade now, and everything will be different. Download this app, try this program, follow this influencer, adopt this routine. There's always something new promising to fill the emptiness, to ease the ache, to finally make us feel okay. And sometimes these things do help, temporarily. The new purchase gives us a little rush, The show makes us laugh. The scroll through social media fills the silence. But the relief never lasts because we haven't actually addressed what's underneath. We've just added another layer of distraction on top of the original pain. Here's what happens when we live this way. We abandon ourselves. Your body is trying to tell you something. It's tired. It's holding tension in your shoulders that's been there so long you've stopped noticing it. Your jaw is clenched even when you sleep. Your stomach is tight, chronically unsettled. Your breath is shallow, never quite full. Your back aches, your neck is stiff, your head pounds. It needs rest, needs movement, needs your attention. But you're too busy checking your phone to notice. You're scrolling through videos of people you've never met, reading arguments that don't matter, watching clips designed to trigger your outrage or envy. And meanwhile, your own body, the only home you'll ever have, is sitting there unattended, calling out to you in the only language it knows. Your heart is trying to tell you something too. Maybe there's grief there that needs to move through you. Grief for a relationship that ended, for a version of yourself you've lost, for dreams that didn't come true, for time that passed differently than you hoped. Maybe there's anger that needs to be acknowledged. Anger at someone who hurt you, at circumstances that feel unfair, at yourself for choices you regret, at a world that often seems indifferent to your struggles. Maybe there's fear about the future, about money, about health, about whether you're doing life right. Maybe there's just a deep tiredness, a longing to stop performing, to stop pretending everything is fine, to finally let down the weight you've been carrying for so long. But you've gotten so good at numbing yourself that you don't even hear it anymore. The person you're running from is yourself. And the tragedy is that you can never get away. You can move to a new city, start a new relationship, change careers, reinvent your image, rearrange your entire life. But everywhere you go, there you are. The loneliness follows. The anxiety follows. The vague sense that something's missing follows. Because what's missing isn't out there. It's the relationship you've lost with yourself. There's a different way. What if, just for a moment, you stopped? Not forever, just for the length of one breath. What if you let the phone stay on the table? What if you turned off the television and sat in the silence? What if you felt the tiredness in your body without immediately trying to fix it or push through it? What if you let yourself be sad without needing to know why or how to make it go away? What if you just sat with the discomfort, the restlessness, the ache, and discovered that you can bear it? You might notice that the feeling isn't as overwhelming as you feared. You might notice that when you stop running from it, it doesn't chase you anymore. You might even notice that beneath the anxiety and the sadness and the restlessness, there's something else, something quiet and steady that's been waiting for you all along. Your body has been carrying you your entire life. Right now, without any effort from you, your heart is beating 70 times a minute, 100,000 times a day. It pumps blood through 60,000 miles of vessels. Your lungs are expanding and contracting, bringing in oxygen, releasing carbon dioxide 18,000 times a day. Your blood is delivering nutrients to 37 trillion cells. Your stomach is digesting whatever you last ate, breaking it down into energy. Your kidneys are filtering waste. Your liver is detoxifying. Your immune system is protecting you from countless threats you'll never know about. Your eyes are adjusting to light. Your ears are processing sound. Your skin is sensing temperature and pressure and pain. All of this is happening without you having to think about it, manage it, or make it occur. This body is a miracle. But how often do you treat it like one? Most of us live in our heads. We're thinking about yesterday, worrying about tomorrow, replaying conversations, planning responses, judging ourselves, comparing ourselves, trying to figure everything out. Meanwhile, our body is here, in this moment, and we're barely aware of it. We're like visitors in our own home, strangers to ourselves. The mind can travel anywhere, into the past, into the future, into fantasy, into fear, but the body can only be in one place, here, only now. This is why coming back to your body is how you come back to the present moment, which is the only moment you're actually alive. Try something simple. Bring your attention to your breath. You don't have to change it or control it. You don't have to make it deeper or slower or more peaceful. You don't have to breathe in any special way or achieve any particular state. Just notice it. Feel the air moving in through your nose, cool as it enters. Feel your chest rising, your belly expanding, your ribs opening. Feel the pause between the in-breath and the out-breath, that tiny moment of stillness, of fullness. Feel the air leaving your body, warm as it exits, your chest falling, your belly softening. That's it. That's the whole practice. You're breathing, and you know you're breathing. This might seem too simple to matter. You might think, I'm already breathing. I've been breathing my whole life. What difference does it make to pay attention to it? But this simple act of bringing awareness to your breath changes everything. When you breathe mindfully, even for just one breath, you unite your body and mind. You stop the endless mental chatter, the constant commentary, the worrying and planning and remembering. You step out of the river of thinking and into the quiet shore of the present moment. For just this moment, there's only breathing. And in that space, you find something you may have forgotten. You find peace. There was a monk many years ago who developed a serious infection in his lungs. For weeks, every breath was difficult. He would cough and struggle, his chest tight, his breath shallow and labored. Breathing, the most basic thing, the thing that happens automatically from birth to death, had become painful, uncertain. After treatment, his lungs healed, and when he could breathe easily again, something shifted in him. Every single breath felt like a gift. He didn't have to remind himself to be grateful. The gratitude arose naturally, spontaneously, with each easy breath. All he had to do was remember those weeks when breathing was so difficult. And suddenly the simple act of taking a full, clear breath became the most delicious thing in the world. He would sit in meditation, breathing in and out, and smile. Not because he was trying to be positive or spiritual, but because breathing well was genuinely joyful. You don't have to wait until you lose something to appreciate it. Right now, you can breathe easily. You have lungs that work. You have a body that, despite whatever struggles it faces, despite whatever imperfections you see, is keeping you alive, moment by moment. This is already extraordinary. Your body isn't your enemy. It's not something to be controlled, punished, perfected, or ignored. It's not a problem to be solved, or a project to be completed. It's your oldest friend, your most faithful companion. It's been with you since before you were born, and it will be with you until your last moment. Everything you've ever experienced, every joy, every heartbreak, every discovery, every loss, every moment of love, every flash of insight, every ordinary day has happened in and through this body. But somewhere along the way, many of us went to war with our bodies. We decided they weren't thin enough, strong enough, young enough, attractive enough, productive enough, healthy enough. We ignored their signals, kept working when they needed rest, kept eating when they were full, or starving ourselves when they were hungry, kept pushing when they needed gentleness. We treated them like machines that should perform on demand, like obstacles to overcome, rather than homes to inhabit. We punished them with harsh exercise, restrictive diets, neglect, criticism, comparison. We compared them to other bodies and found them lacking, always lacking. When you bring mindful attention to your body, you're not trying to change it, or fix it, or make it different. You're simply acknowledging, you're here, I'm here, we're in this together. Breathe in and know that you're breathing in. That's the first practice. Breathe out and know that you're breathing out. That's the second practice. With this simple practice, something profound happens. You're no longer lost in thought. You're no longer rehearsing the past or worrying about the future. You're here. Your mind has come home to your body, and in that reunion, something settles. The racing thoughts slow down. The tension begins to soften, just a little. You remember what it feels like to simply be, without needing to do or accomplish or fix anything. This isn't about achieving some special state or having a mystical experience. This is about recognizing that life is only available in the present moment. The past is gone. You can remember it, learn from it, make peace with it, carry its lessons forward, but you can't live there. The future hasn't arrived. You can prepare for it, dream about it, work toward it, but you can't experience it yet. The only place you can actually be alive, the only moment that truly exists, is right here, right now. And the doorway into the present moment is always your breath. When you breathe mindfully, you're not doing it to become enlightened or to fix your problems or to earn some spiritual achievement. You're not doing it to become a better person or to prove something to yourself or anyone else. You're doing it because this moment matters. This breath matters. You matter. Let's try something together. Wherever you are, lying down, sitting, walking, resting, bring your full attention to your next breath. Feel it entering your body through your nose or mouth. Feel it moving down into your lungs, filling them from bottom to top. Feel your chest expanding, your ribs opening, your belly rising, your whole torso softening to receive this breath. Feel the slight pause at the top of the breath, that small moment of fullness, of completion. Then feel it leaving your body, carrying with it some of the tension you've been holding, some of the worry, some of the weight, some of the resistance to this moment. Do that again. Just one breath, taken with your full awareness, with all of your attention gathered into this simple act. Notice how different that feels from the thousands of breaths you take every day without noticing. This one breath, when you're fully present for it, has the power to change the quality of your entire experience. It's like the difference between eating while distracted, standing over the sink, scrolling through your phone, and actually tasting your food, noticing its texture, its temperature, its flavor. The breath is the same, the food is the same, but your experience of it is completely different. You can do this anywhere, anytime. You can do it in the middle of a difficult conversation, when you feel yourself getting defensive, or shutting down, or preparing to attack. You can do it when you're stuck in traffic, and irritation is rising in your chest, like a tide. You can do it when anxiety starts spiraling, when you catch yourself rehearsing worst-case scenarios, or catastrophizing about the future. You can do it right before you open an email you're afraid to read, right before you make a phone call that feels daunting. You can do it when you're lying awake at night, mind racing through tomorrow's to-do list or yesterday's regrets. You can do it walking from your car to your office, from one room to another in your home, from your bedroom to the kitchen in the middle of the night. One conscious breath brings you back to yourself, back to this moment, back to the only place where life is actually happening, where peace is actually possible. Your body has been trying to get your attention for a long time. It's been sending you signals, tightness in your shoulders that never quite goes away, heaviness in your chest that makes it hard to take a deep breath, exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, restlessness that can't be soothed by any distraction, aches and pains that seem to have no clear cause but persist anyway. These aren't problems to be solved, or symptoms to be medicated away, or signs that you're broken. They're invitations. Your body is asking you to come home, to pay attention, to remember that you're not just a mind floating through the world, but an embodied being who needs care, who deserves tenderness, who is worthy of your own attention. And you can answer that invitation right now with just one breath, one moment of kind attention, one gentle return to the body that has been faithfully carrying you all along, through every joy and every sorrow, through every triumph and every failure, through every moment of your life. This is where transformation begins, not with grand gestures or perfect plans or finally having everything figured out. It begins with the willingness to stop running and to simply be here, to breathe and know you're breathing, to feel and know you're feeling, to exist, fully present in this one precious moment that will never come again, this moment that contains within it the possibility of peace, the seeds of joy, the ground where healing can take root. Imagine a mother hearing her baby cry in the next room. She's in the middle of something, cooking dinner, paying bills, folding laundry, but she hears that cry. What does she do? She doesn't ignore it, hoping it will stop on its own. She doesn't turn up the television to drown out the sound. She doesn't stand there, analyzing why the baby is crying, developing theories about what might be wrong, researching solutions on her phone. She simply stops what she's doing, goes to the baby, and picks them up. She doesn't know yet why the baby is crying. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe their diaper needs changing. Maybe they have a fever. Maybe they're teething. Maybe they just need to be held. But before she can understand any of that, before she can address the actual need, she does something essential. She acknowledges the baby's distress. She takes the baby into her arms. She holds them close to her chest where they can hear her heartbeat. She rocks gently. She whispers softly. She says through her presence, "I'm here. I see you. You're not alone." And something shifts immediately, even before the problem is solved. The baby feels the mother's arms, hears her heartbeat, senses her calm presence. The crying may not stop right away, but there's a change in its quality. Less desperate, less alone, less terrified. The baby knows they've been heard. The baby knows someone cares. That knowledge itself is soothing, is healing, even while the original discomfort might still be there. This is exactly how we need to be with our own suffering. When pain arises, whether it's sadness, anxiety, anger, loneliness, fear, shame, our habit is to do anything but hold it. We try to think our way out of it, distract ourselves from it, push it away with willpower, or pretend it isn't there. We analyze it endlessly, without actually being present with it. We judge ourselves for having it. We compare our pain to others' pain and decide we shouldn't be feeling this way. We treat our suffering like an enemy to be defeated, rather than a crying child who needs acknowledgement. But mindfulness offers a different approach, one that's remarkably simple, yet profound. It has 3 steps: recognition, embrace, and understanding. First, recognition. When a difficult feeling arises, you simply notice it and name it. Breathing in, I know anxiety is here. Breathing out, I say hello to my anxiety. You're not trying to change it or make it go away. You're not making it wrong or bad. You're just acknowledging its presence the way you'd acknowledge a person entering the room, without drama, without rejection, just noticing, oh, you're here. This simple act of recognition is already powerful. Most of us spend so much energy trying not to feel what we're feeling that we exhaust ourselves before we even begin to address the actual pain. The resistance itself becomes a second layer of suffering. We're anxious, and then we're anxious about being anxious. We're sad, and then we're ashamed of being sad. We're angry, and then we're guilty about being angry. When you stop fighting and simply say, "Yes, this is here," something releases. The tension of resistance softens. Second, embrace. You hold your suffering tenderly, the way that mother holds her crying baby. Breathing in, I embrace my sadness. Breathing out, I hold it gently. You're generating the energy of mindfulness, which is the energy of presence, of caring attention, and you're wrapping that energy around your pain like a warm blanket. This isn't about liking the pain or wanting it to stay forever. It's about being with it without violence, without rejection, without the harsh judgment that says, you shouldn't be feeling this way. When you embrace your suffering this way, you're no longer adding the second layer of suffering that comes from resisting the first layer. You're no longer at war with yourself. You're creating a safe container where healing can begin to happen. Think about what happens when you cut your finger. You don't have to know exactly how to heal it. Your body already knows. You just need to clean it, maybe put a bandage on it, and then trust the natural healing process. Emotional healing works similarly. When you stop interfering with harsh judgment or frantic attempts to make the pain disappear, your heart knows how to heal itself. You just need to create the conditions, recognition, and embrace for that natural healing to occur. Third, understanding. After you've recognized and embraced your suffering for some time, you can begin to look deeply into it to understand its roots. Why is this sadness here? What feeds this anxiety? Where did this anger come from? What old wound is being touched? Understanding brings insight, and insight brings transformation. But here's what's crucial. You don't need to reach understanding immediately for healing to begin. The simple act of recognition and embrace is already therapeutic. Presence itself is healing. Sometimes understanding comes quickly, sometimes it takes time, and sometimes the understanding is simply this: I'm suffering, and that's okay, and I can hold myself through it. Think about what happens when you're upset and someone truly listens to you, not trying to fix you or give advice or make it better, not jumping in with solutions or telling you it's not so bad, just listening with their full attention, their full presence. Something in you softens, doesn't it? The pain doesn't necessarily disappear, but you feel less alone with it, less overwhelmed by it, more able to bear it. That's the power of mindful presence. You can offer that same presence to yourself. A woman struggles with depression for years. It comes and goes like weather, sometimes mild like an overcast day, sometimes so heavy she can barely get out of bed, can barely remember what it feels like to want anything. For a long time, She treats it as an enemy, as evidence that she's broken, that she's failing at life. She fights it with everything she has, judges herself harshly for having it, tries to push through it with willpower and positive thinking. She reads books about happiness, tries different medications, berates herself for not being stronger, compares herself to people who seem to navigate life with ease. Then someone teaches her a different approach. The next time depression arrives, heavy and dark and familiar, instead of fighting it or running from it or collapsing under its weight, she tries something new. She sits down, places her hand on her heart, and breathes. "Hello, depression," she says quietly, out loud to her empty room. "I know you're here. I see you." It feels strange at first, almost silly, but she keeps going. She doesn't try to make it go away. She doesn't analyze why it's there, or what she did wrong to deserve it, or how long it might last this time. She just acknowledges it, the way she'd acknowledge a visitor at her door, not necessarily a welcome visitor, not someone she's happy to see, but one she's choosing to recognize rather than pretend isn't there. And something surprising happens. The depression is still there, still heavy, still painful, but the relationship to it changes. It's no longer this overwhelming monster that has complete power over her, that defines her entire existence. It's a visitor, a difficult one, a painful one, but just a visitor. She can be with it without being consumed by it. She can hold it the way she'd hold a crying child, with tenderness, with patience, without needing to immediately fix or change anything, without judgment about whether she should or shouldn't be feeling this way. Over time, as she practices this acknowledgement, as she stops fighting and starts simply being present, she starts to understand the depression better. She sees how certain thoughts feed it. Thoughts about being worthless, about the future, being hopeless, about being a burden to others. She sees how isolation makes it heavier, how staying in bed all day, avoiding friends, cancelling plans, creates a loop that intensifies the darkness. She sees how self-judgment intensifies it, how beating herself up for being depressed adds another layer of pain on top of the original pain. She learns to recognize depression's early signs, the way colors start to seem duller, the way ordinary tasks feel impossibly heavy, the way negative thoughts start to spiral, and to respond with gentleness rather than panic. She develops tools, reaching out to a friend even when she doesn't want to, taking a short walk, even when it feels pointless, speaking kindly to herself, even when her mind is full of criticism. The depression doesn't disappear completely. It still visits, but it no longer has the same power to devastate her. She's learned to be with it, and that changes everything. This is what becomes possible when we stop fighting our suffering and start meeting it with mindful presence. Not passivity, not giving up, not just accepting that we'll always hurt, but active compassion, active presence, the willingness to be with what is, without making it worse, through resistance and judgment. The simple phrase, "I see you," said to your own pain, your own fear, your own struggling heart, can be profoundly healing. It's the opposite of abandonment. It's coming home to yourself. It's being the mother who picks up the crying baby, rather than the one who turns up the television and hopes the crying will stop. It's treating yourself with the same tender care you'd offer someone you deeply love. Look at your hand for a moment. Really look at it. Whose hand is it? The obvious answer seems simple. It's your hand. But look more closely. If you knew your mother, look at your hand and see if you can find her there. Maybe it's the shape of the fingers, the way the thumb curves, the lines across the palm, the way the knuckles bend. Your mother's hand is in your hand. She didn't just give birth to you and then become separate. She continues in you, cell by cell, gesture by gesture, expression by expression. If you knew your father, you might see his hands there too. Maybe it's the width of the palm, the length of the fingers, the way you move your hands when you talk. And in your mother's hand are her mother's hands and her father's hands. In your father's hand are his parents' hands and their parents' hands before them. Your hand carries generations. Your hand holds centuries. This isn't metaphor or poetry, it's biological truth. You are the continuation of your ancestors. Every cell in your body contains their genetic information, their DNA, the code that shaped them, shaping you now. Every habit, every tendency, every fear, and every strength has roots that go back through time, through lives you never knew, but that live on in you. Think of a corn plant growing in a field on a late summer day. Each stalk, each leaf, each kernel on the cob contains the original seed. The seed doesn't disappear when the plant grows. It continues, transforms, expands into every part of the plant. You can see the seed in the leaf, in the root, in the flower, in the fruit. The plant is the continuation of the seed, not something separate from it. In the same way, you are the continuation of your parents, and they are the continuation of their parents. You carry them all forward, the whole lineage, all the way back. When you walk with your ancestors' legs. When you speak with their voice, their words, their ways of expression. When you suffer, you may be suffering not just your own pain, but pain that has been passed down through generations, waiting for someone to finally stop and say, "I see you. I'm here. This ends with me." A man carries rage inside him that seems disproportionate to his life circumstances. He has a good job, a loving partner, no major traumas in his recent past, advantages and opportunities many people don't have. Yet the anger is there, simmering beneath the surface like water about to boil, erupting at small provocations, traffic, a misplaced item, a minor disappointment. He's ashamed of it, tries desperately to control it, worries constantly that he's becoming his father, a man whose anger made everyone around him walk on eggshells, whose rage filled rooms and silenced children. For years, this man hates his father for that anger. He's built his entire life around being different, being better, not repeating those patterns. He's vowed never to make his children feel the way he felt as a child, small, afraid, constantly bracing for the next explosion, never knowing what small thing might trigger it. He's read books about anger management, practiced breathing techniques, tried therapy, promised himself 1,000 times that he won't lose control. But the anger is still there, in him, like a fire that won't go out, and he can't seem to get rid of it, no matter what he does. Then one day, sitting in meditation, practicing mindfulness, he has an insight that shifts everything. He realizes that his father's anger wasn't really his father's. It was inherited too, passed down like eye color or height. His father grew up in a house where violence was normal, where men were taught that anger was the only acceptable emotion, where pain was never acknowledged or held or healed, where crying was weakness and gentleness was for women. His father's father carried rage from his own unprocessed trauma, from poverty that ground people down, from war that shattered minds, from a time and place where survival meant hardness, where softness meant death. Seeing this doesn't excuse his father's behavior. It doesn't erase the pain of his childhood, the fear, the hypervigilance, the way he learned to disappear when his father's mood darkened. But it shifts something fundamental in how he relates to his own anger. This rage he carries isn't proof that he's fundamentally flawed or destined to repeat his father's mistakes or failing at being a good person. It's an inheritance, passed down, because no one knew how to transform it, because no one had the tools or the space or the safety to stop and say, "This hurts, and I don't know how to make it stop hurting." And here's the extraordinary thing. He can be the one who transforms it. He can be the place where the cycle breaks. When he sits with his anger now, he doesn't just see his own frustration at traffic, or work stress, or life's daily irritations. He sees his father, young and scared, learning that anger was power, that rage could make people back off, that violence was how real men handled things. He sees his grandfather, traumatized by war, unable to speak of what he'd seen, what he'd done, carrying ghosts no one acknowledged. He sees generations of men who never learned to say, "I'm hurt," or "I'm afraid," or "I need help," and so said it with rage instead, with fists and harsh words and terrifying silences. And he holds all of it, his own anger, his father's anger, his grandfather's anger, the anger of men he never met, but who live in his cells, with the tenderness he wished someone had offered them all. He breathes with it, in and out, feeling it in his body, without acting it out. He says hello to it. He lets it be there without pushing it away, without adding judgment or shame, without the story that he's bad for feeling this way. Slowly, over months and years of practice, the anger transforms. It doesn't disappear completely. Anger is a natural human emotion, and sometimes it's appropriate. Sometimes it's information about boundaries being crossed or injustice being done. But it's no longer this overwhelming force that controls him, that erupts without warning, that makes his hands shake and his vision narrow. It's no longer the rage of 3 generations compressed into one body, unexpressed, and unhealed. He's broken the cycle, not through force, but through presence, not through rejection, but through compassion. This is the miracle of mindfulness practice. When you heal yourself, you heal backward and forward in time. When you recognize your suffering and embrace it with compassion, you're also embracing the suffering of your ancestors who didn't know how to do this, who never learned there was another way. You're offering them, through your own healing, what they never received: acknowledgement, tenderness, the space to simply be with pain without judgment. And you're ensuring that this particular form of suffering won't be passed on to your children, to the next generation, that the pattern stops here. You break the chain, not with violence or force, not by rejecting your ancestors or cutting yourself off from them or pretending they don't live in you, but through the gentle, persistent practice of being present with what hurts, of holding pain with compassion, rather than passing it forward unconsciously. Your mother lives in every cell of your body. Your father lives in every cell of your body. You cannot remove them even if you wanted to. They're not outside you. They're inside you, woven into the fabric of who you are. Getting angry with them is getting angry with yourself. Hating them is hating parts of yourself. Their suffering is in your cells, yes, but so is their joy, their resilience, their capacity for love, their strength, their beauty. When you practice mindfulness, when you learn to recognize and embrace your own pain with tenderness, you're doing it for them too. You're doing it for all of them, the ones who hurt you and the ones who loved you, the ones you knew and the ones who died before you were born. You're lighting a candle that illuminates not just your own path, but the path behind you and the path ahead, offering healing across time itself. Some people say, "I don't want anything to do with my parents," or "I need to cut them out of my life completely." And sometimes, for safety, for healing, for survival, physical distance is necessary and wise, and exactly the right choice. But you cannot truly cut them out because they're already in your DNA, in your cells, in the very structure of your body and mind, in the way you hold your shoulders, or smile, or react to stress. The only path to real freedom is to make peace with that reality, to see them clearly with compassion, and to transform what needs transforming without adding more violence to the violence that already was. This doesn't mean you excuse harmful behavior or pretend abuse didn't happen or allow ongoing harm to continue. It means you recognize that suffering creates suffering, that your parents were once children too, vulnerable and needing care, that the pain they caused you often came from pain they never learned to heal, were never taught how to heal, perhaps weren't even allowed to acknowledge. You can hold both truths at once. What they did hurt you deeply, and they were also suffering. Compassion doesn't mean weakness or acceptance of harm. It means seeing clearly, understanding deeply, and choosing not to continue the cycle, choosing to be the place where the pattern finally breaks. We're afraid of death. Most of us walk around with this fear tucked away somewhere, not always conscious, but always present, shaping our choices and our anxieties in ways we don't always recognize. We're afraid we'll cease to exist, that we'll go from being to non-being, that everything we are will simply stop, vanish, become nothing. But what if I told you that you're dying right now? Not in some future moment when your heart finally stops, but right now, in this very moment, as you listen to these words. Your body is made of approximately 37 trillion cells. Every single day, about 50 billion of those cells die. 50 billion deaths happening in your body today. That's happening right now, as you breathe, as you listen, as blood moves through your veins. Cells in your stomach lining live for only a few days before they die and are replaced. Cells in your skin constantly die and slough off. Red blood cells live for about 4 months, then die. They're completing their cycle, dying, making way for new cells to be born, right now. You don't organize funerals for them. You don't mourn each cell that passes. You don't even notice it happening, this constant dying in every moment. And yet this constant dying is essential to your life, is life itself. If old cells didn't die, new cells couldn't be born. Death is making space for life, every moment of every day, every second of your existence. So when we say we're afraid of death, what are we really afraid of? We're dying and being born constantly, simultaneously. The person you were 7 years ago is completely gone. Literally every cell in your body has been replaced since then. Every single one. The you from childhood, from last year, from yesterday morning, all different configurations of cells, thoughts, experiences, memories. You've died countless times already, and you're still here, still experiencing, still aware. The Buddha taught that nothing has a separate permanent self. Everything is constantly changing, constantly dying and being reborn, constantly in flux. A cloud doesn't die when it becomes rain. It transforms, continues in a new form. The rain doesn't die when it seeps into the ground and becomes part of a plant. It continues, changes, but doesn't cease to exist. The plant doesn't die when it becomes compost. It nourishes new life, continues the cycle. You are like that cloud, like that rain, like that plant. You didn't come from nothing, and you won't go to nothing. You're a continuation of everything that came before you, and you'll continue in everything that comes after. Nothing is ever truly lost. It just changes form. Look at a piece of paper. When was it born? When the tree was cut down? When the tree was a sapling? When the seed that grew into the tree was planted? When did the paper exist? Before it was paper. It existed as tree, as seed, as soil, as rain that watered the soil, as sun that warmed the earth, as minerals that fed the roots. And when you burn the paper, does it die? Does it cease to exist? It becomes smoke, rising into the air, heat warming the room, ash, returning to earth, still existing, just in new forms, still part of the endless cycle. This is true for you too. Before you were born, where were you? You were in your mother, yes, but before that, you were in your mother's mother, in the food she ate when she was pregnant with your mother, in the air she breathed, in the earth that grew the food, in the stars that created the elements that make up your body. You've always been here, just not in this particular form, just not as this particular configuration called by your name. And after this body stops, where will you go? You'll continue in your children if you have them, in your students if you've taught, in the people whose lives you touched, whose minds you changed, whose hearts you opened. You'll continue in the physical elements that will return to the earth and become part of new life. The calcium in your bones will feed future plants. The water in your body will join rivers and clouds. You'll continue in ways you can't fully imagine, just as you existed before this life, in ways you can't fully remember. There's a young person, only 30 years old, who feels exhausted by life. Not suicidal exactly, not actively wanting to die, but weary in a deep way that rest doesn't fix. They look around at the decades stretching ahead, maybe 50 more years, 60, 70 if they're lucky, and feel tired rather than excited. So much work ahead, so much effort, so many years of the same struggles, the same disappointments, the same daily grind of getting up and going through motions. They find themselves thinking, is this all there is? Just getting up day after day, working and worrying and trying and failing until I finally don't have to anymore. This is a different kind of death wish, not wanting to die exactly, but being bored with living, tired of the repetition, weary of existence itself, tired of the struggle, the effort it takes just to keep going, to keep caring, to keep trying to make life meaningful when everything feels flat and grey. But this tiredness often comes from a fundamental misunderstanding about what life is, about what it means to be alive. We think life is something we have to get through, something to endure until we reach some future point where things will finally be good, where we'll finally have arrived. We think happiness is something we'll achieve later, after we accomplish certain things, after circumstances align just right, after we become who we think we should be. So the present moment becomes empty, becomes just a bridge to somewhere else, just a necessary evil we have to cross to get to the good part. And the idea of decades of these empty bridges, these meaningless moments, feels exhausting beyond words. But what if life isn't something to get through? What if it's something to be touched, tasted, experienced fully right now, in this moment that will never come again? What if every moment, including this one, including the ones that feel ordinary or difficult or boring, contains within it the possibility of joy, of wonder, of peace, of meaning? Not because circumstances are perfect, but because you're truly present for whatever is happening, because you're actually here rather than lost in thoughts about past or future. The problem isn't that life is too long or too hard or too repetitive. The problem is that we're not actually living most of our moments. We're lost in thought, lost in worry about tomorrow, lost in regret about yesterday, lost in plans and fantasies and fears. We're running through our days on autopilot, barely noticing the taste of our food, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of rain on windows, the miracle of each breath entering and leaving our body. Of course, we're tired. We're working so hard at being somewhere other than where we are, at being someone other than who we are. When you practice mindfulness, when you learn to be truly present in each moment, something remarkable happens. Life stops being this heavy thing you have to carry, this burden you have to endure, and becomes this precious thing you get to experience, this gift that keeps offering itself. The same moment that felt empty when you were lost in thought becomes full, becomes rich, becomes alive when you're actually there for it, when you're present to it with your full attention. Birth and death aren't separate events that happen at the beginning and end of your life, bookends around the story of you. They're happening constantly, together, always, in every moment. Every in-breath is a birth, every out-breath a death, every moment, something new arising, and something old passing away. Every moment something in you is dying, a thought, a feeling, a cell, a version of yourself, and something is being born to take its place. They're partners in the dance of existence, not enemies at war. When you understand this deeply, not just intellectually but in your bones, in your actual lived experience, fear starts to dissolve, like morning mist. You realize you've been dying your whole life, and it's been fine. Actually, it's been more than fine. It's been necessary. It's been beautiful. It's been the very nature of being alive. Every death has made space for new life. Every ending has made way for a new beginning. Every loss has created room for something new to enter. You're already doing death gracefully, moment by moment, breath by breath, without even trying. You've let go of countless thoughts, feelings, versions of yourself, and you're still here, still aware, still experiencing. The final letting go, when this particular body completes its cycle and returns to Earth, will be just another transformation in an endless series of transformations, just another change in form, not an ending, but a continuation. This doesn't mean you have to welcome death eagerly or stop taking care of your life, or give up on being healthy or safe. It means you can stop being terrorized by death, stop letting fear of it poison every moment of life. You can stop letting fear of death prevent you from living fully now, from taking risks, from being vulnerable, from loving deeply. You can stop postponing joy until you feel secure, because true security comes not from controlling life and death, but from understanding their nature, from making peace with impermanence itself. Right now, in this moment, you are alive. Cells are dying, yes, but cells are also being born, being created, coming into existence. Your heart is beating approximately 70 times a minute, 100,000 times today, moving blood through your entire body. Your lungs are breathing, pulling in oxygen, releasing carbon dioxide, participating in the great exchange with trees and plants. Your eyes are seeing or your ears are hearing these words, processing information, creating meaning. This moment is both a birthday party and a funeral, and both are sacred, and both are necessary, and both are beautiful in their way. When you stop running from death, you stop running from life. When you make peace with impermanence, every moment becomes precious, not despite its temporary nature, but because of it. The flower is beautiful precisely because it will fade and return to earth. This breath is sacred precisely because it won't last forever, because this particular breath will never come again. You are miraculous precisely because you're alive, right now, in this unrepeatable moment, experiencing this unique configuration of consciousness that has never existed before and will never exist again. So when suffering arises, whether it's fear of death, inherited pain from generations back, depression that feels like it will never lift, or your own difficult emotions of this particular day, you can say hello to it. You can hold it the way a mother holds a crying baby, with tenderness, with presence, with patience, with the understanding that you don't need to fix everything immediately, that you don't need to have all the answers right now. Just being there, just saying, "I see you," just breathing with it, is already healing, already enough, already the beginning of transformation, already planting the seeds that will bloom into understanding, compassion, and peace. One afternoon, the Buddha was sitting with his monks in a grove of trees. They had just returned from walking through the village, receiving offerings of food from the townspeople, and now they were settling down to eat their meal together in mindful silence. The air was warm. The light filtered through leaves above them, and there was a quality of peace in the gathering. Suddenly, they heard someone running through the forest, crashing through undergrowth, calling out in distress. A farmer appeared, breathing hard, his face twisted with worry. He looked at the Buddha and the monks desperately. "Monks, have you seen my cows? Have any cows passed by here?" The Buddha looked at him with gentle eyes. "What cows?" he asked. "My cows," the farmer said, his voice rising with panic. "I have 4 cows, and this morning they all ran away. I don't know why. I don't know where they went, but they're gone. All 4 of them, just gone. And that's not all. I also have 2 acres of sesame plants, and this year the insects ate the entire crop. Everything, every single plant. I've lost everything. My harvest, my cows, everything I worked for. I feel like I should just end my life. What's the point of going on?" The Buddha nodded with understanding and compassion. "Dear friend," he said, "we've been sitting here for almost an hour, eating our meal peacefully. We haven't seen any cows passing by. Perhaps they went in the other direction. You might try looking that way." The farmer, still agitated, nodded quickly and ran off in the direction the Buddha had indicated, calling for his cows as he disappeared into the trees. The Buddha watched him go, then turned to his monks with a small smile playing at his lips. His eyes were warm, almost twinkling. "Dear friends," he said, "you are very lucky. Do you know why you're so lucky?" The monks looked at each other, curious. "You have no cows to lose," the Buddha said. And then he laughed, not unkindly, but with the joy of someone who has seen through a fundamental human trap and wants to help others see it too. This story has been told for over 2,000 years because it contains something we all need to understand. We all have cows. We're all carrying things we believe are essential to our survival, to our happiness, to our identity, when in fact, they may be the very things that make us suffer. Your cows might not be actual animals. They might be ideas about how your life should look, beliefs about what you need to be happy, attachments to particular outcomes, identities you're clinging to, grudges you can't let go of, worries that circle endlessly in your mind. Maybe your cow is the belief that you need to make a certain amount of money before you can relax and enjoy life. Maybe it's the idea that you need to look a certain way before you're acceptable, before you're worthy of love or respect. Maybe it's holding on to anger at someone who hurt you years ago, or resentment about an opportunity you lost, or shame about a mistake you made. Maybe it's the need to be right, to win every argument, to prove your worth through achievement. Maybe it's a relationship that's causing you pain but that you can't imagine leaving, or a job that's crushing your spirit but that pays the bills, or a dream you're chasing that's become more burden than aspiration. We hold on to these cows, these beliefs, these attachments, these identities so tightly that we don't even realize we're holding them. They've become part of how we see ourselves, part of our story about who we are and what we need. And then we spend our lives chasing them when they run away, or worrying they might be taken from us, or suffering when they don't turn out the way we hoped. A wealthy woman lived in a beautiful apartment in a big city. From her window, she had a stunning view. She could see a river winding through the landscape, a graceful bridge spanning it, miles of open sky that changed color with the light throughout the day. It was one of the things she loved most about her home, this view that made her feel connected to something larger than the busy streets below. One day, she purchased the empty lot next to her building. It was a good investment, people told her. She could build a large apartment complex there, fill it with expensive units, sell them, and make a significant profit. The plans were drawn up. A tall building that would maximize the space, maximize the return on her investment. A friend came to visit and stood at the window, looking out at the view. They talked about the construction plans, about the money the woman would make, about the timeline for building, about finding contractors and managing the project. Then the friend turned to her and said quietly, "But if you build that, you won't have this view anymore. You'll be looking at a concrete wall every morning. Your neighbors will lose their view too. You'll never again see the sky like this, the river flowing, the light changing through the day, the birds flying past at dawn. You already have enough money to live comfortably. What's the use of having more if you lose all this beauty and peace?" The woman stood there, really hearing this for the first time, really feeling it. She had been so focused on the opportunity, on what she could gain, on maximizing her assets, that she hadn't considered what she would lose. She looked out at the river, at the sky, turning pink with sunset, at the bridge where the light was catching. She felt the peace this view brought her every morning when she woke up, every evening when she came home from work, tired and stressed, how this vista anchored her, reminded her of spaciousness when her life felt cramped. She changed her plans. She kept the lot but left it as open space, planted some trees, made it a small garden where neighbors could sit. She released that cow, the cow of always needing more money, always needing to maximize profit, always needing to turn everything into an opportunity for gain, the belief that more is always better. And in releasing it, she kept something far more valuable than the money she might have made. The relief that comes from letting go of even one cow can be extraordinary. You might not even realize how heavy something is until you put it down. You've been carrying this belief, this attachment, this worry for so long that you've gotten used to the weight. It's just become part of your normal experience. The constant background stress that you think everyone feels, that you assume is just what life is like. But when you finally let go, when you decide that you don't need that particular thing to be happy, when you release that grudge you've been nursing for years, when you stop trying to control that one thing you can't control, when you accept that you're enough, just as you are, there's a lightness that floods in. Your shoulders drop. Your breath deepens. You feel like you can move freely again, in a way you'd forgotten was possible. If you'd like, you might try something. It's completely optional, just an invitation, not a requirement, or homework, or something you should feel guilty about if you don't do it. You could take a moment to consider, what are your cows? What are you holding on to that's making you suffer? What belief about what you need to be happy is actually keeping you from happiness? What are you chasing that, if you're honest with yourself, isn't bringing you any real peace or joy? What identity are you clinging to that no longer fits who you actually are, who you're becoming? You don't have to let them all go at once. That would be overwhelming, maybe even impossible, maybe even unwise. But maybe there's one cow, just one, that you could consider releasing, just to see what it feels like, just to discover what spaciousness might open up when you put down that particular weight, what might become possible when that hand is free. There was a man named Biya who was a governor of a province in the kingdom where the Buddha lived. He was a powerful man, important, respected, influential. He had hundreds of soldiers under his command, vast wealth, a magnificent palace, servants attending to his every need. When he walked through his palace, people bowed low. When he made decisions, they affected thousands of lives. He had everything that most people spend their entire lives trying to achieve. Everything the world tells us we should want. One day, some of his friends who had become monks came to visit him. They told him about their lives in the monastery, about practicing with the Buddha, about the teachings on suffering and the end of suffering, about the peace they had found in simplicity and mindfulness. They invited him to join them, to leave his position of power and become a monk, to practice this path of awakening. At first, Biya hesitated. How could he leave all this? He had power, security, wealth, status, influence. He had worked his whole life to achieve this position, climbed so many ladders, made so many sacrifices. People depended on him, looked up to him, needed his decisions and his leadership. This was who he was, Governor Bia, important and powerful and necessary. But something in him felt tired, heavy, burdened. All this power and wealth hadn't brought him the peace he thought it would, the contentment he'd imagined would come once he achieved enough. He was constantly worried about political rivals, about uprisings, about making the wrong decision, about losing what he had gained through so much effort. He slept with guards outside his door because he was afraid of assassination, of enemies, of those who envied his position. Even with all his wealth and power, he didn't feel safe. He didn't feel free. He felt trapped by his own success. So one day, he made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him, that people talked about for years afterward. He let it all go. He gave up his position, his palace, his power, his wealth, his status. He walked away with nothing but the simple robes of a monk, one bowl for receiving food, a mat for sleeping. Everything he had spent his life accumulating, everything he thought defined him, he released. He joined the Buddha's community and learned to live with almost nothing. No palace. He slept under trees or in simple shelters, open to the weather. No servants. He washed his own robes in streams, mended his own clothes, prepared his own food when there were no offerings from villagers. No guards. He was just another practitioner, sleeping out in the open forest, like everyone else, vulnerable, unprotected by anything except his practice. One night, not long after he had become a monk, Bia was sitting in meditation at the foot of a tree. The moon was bright above him, casting shadows through the branches. The forest was quiet, except for night sounds, and he was completely alone. No guards, no walls, no weapons, no protection, except the darkness and his own practice and his trust in the path. And suddenly, from deep in his chest, words came out, words he couldn't contain, words that burst from him with such joy, such relief, such overwhelming happiness that another monk sitting in meditation nearby could hear them clearly through the night air. "Oh, my happiness!" Bia exclaimed, his voice ringing through the quiet forest. "Oh, my happiness!" He said it twice, with such feeling, such genuine emotion, such pure joy, that the other monk was startled, confused, even a bit concerned. The next morning, that monk went to the Buddha and reported what he'd heard. He was worried about his friend. "Teacher, I think Brother Bia is regretting his decision to become a monk. Last night during meditation, I heard him cry out, 'Oh, my happiness,' twice, with great emotion. I think he's remembering his old life, his wealth and power and comfort, and missing it, wishing he hadn't given it all up." The Buddha smiled knowingly and sent for Bia. When Bia arrived, the Buddha asked him gently, with no judgment in his voice, "Is it true that last night during meditation you exclaimed, "Oh, my happiness," 2 times. "Yes, noble teacher," Bia said, meeting the Buddha's eyes without shame or embarrassment. "I did." "Can you explain to us why you said this?" the Buddha asked. "Some of your brothers are concerned that you regret your decision to join us, that you're longing for your former life." Bia's face lit up with a smile, with genuine radiance. "Noble teacher, when I was a governor, my palace was guarded by hundreds of soldiers, day and night, in shifts that never ended. But even with all those guards, with all those armed men protecting me, I never felt safe, not for a single moment. I was constantly afraid that someone would break in while I slept, that rivals would assassinate me, that robbers would come for my wealth, that enemies would poison my food or ambush me in the hallway. I couldn't sleep peacefully, couldn't relax, couldn't let my guard down ever. I was always on edge, always vigilant, always afraid of losing what I had worked so hard to gain. But last night," he continued, his voice full of wonder and amazement, "I realized that I was sitting alone in the forest, at the foot of a tree, completely unguarded, with nothing to protect me from wild animals or robbers or anything, and I felt absolutely safe. Safer than I've ever felt in my entire life, safer than I felt surrounded by armed guards in a locked palace. Nobody wants to kill me anymore because I have no power to threaten them with, no position they want to take from me. Nobody wants to rob me because I have nothing to steal, nothing worth taking. I have no position to lose, no wealth to protect, no reputation to defend, no rivals to fear. For the first time in my life, I am truly free, truly safe, truly at peace. That's why I cried out, 'Oh, my happiness! Oh, my happiness!' If I disturbed anyone with my exclamation, I sincerely apologize. But I couldn't contain the joy I felt at realizing that I've finally let go of everything that was making me suffer. And in letting go, in releasing all those cows I was so desperately trying to protect, I found what I was looking for all along." This story touches something profound about the nature of security and happiness. We think we need to accumulate things to be safe: money, possessions, status, power, insurance policies, backup plans, safety nets upon safety nets. We think that the more we have, the more protected we'll be, the more secure we'll feel, the less vulnerable to life's uncertainties. But often the opposite is true, and we discover this too late. The more we have, the more we have to protect, the more we have to worry about, the more we have to fear losing, the more energy we spend on maintaining and defending rather than living and enjoying. True security doesn't come from having a lot. It comes from needing very little, from being content with what is. True freedom doesn't come from being able to afford anything you want or go anywhere you want. It comes from discovering that you already have everything you need to be happy right now, in this moment, just as you are, just with this breath and this heartbeat. This doesn't mean you have to give away all your possessions and go live in a forest like an ancient monk. That's not the point of Bia's story, not the teaching being offered here. The point is about recognizing what you're holding on to out of fear, what you think you need, but that's actually weighing you down, what you're protecting that's actually imprisoning you trapping you in worry and vigilance? What if the thing you think is keeping you safe is actually keeping you trapped? What if the cow you're desperately chasing or fiercely protecting is exactly what's preventing you from experiencing real peace, real freedom, real joy? The invitation isn't to let go of everything at once, or to make dramatic changes before you're ready, or to abandon all responsibility. The invitation is much quieter, much gentler, much more personal than that. It's simply this: what would you let go of if you could? Not what should you let go of according to some spiritual ideal or someone else's idea of what's important or what you read in a book. But what would you let go of if you listened to the deepest wisdom in your own heart, if you trusted your own knowing? What are you carrying that you're tired of carrying? What are you holding on to that you're ready to release? That's ready to be released. Maybe it's just one small thing to start with. Maybe it's the need to check your phone first thing every morning before you even say good morning to yourself or the person sleeping next to you before you've even fully woken up. Maybe it's the habit of criticizing yourself every time you look in the mirror, that voice that immediately finds fault. Maybe it's the grudge you've been carrying against someone for 5 years, 10 years, half your life, that takes up space in your heart where love could live instead. Maybe it's the belief that you'll be happy when you lose 10 pounds, or get that promotion, or find the right relationship, or retire, or finally fix everything that's wrong. Letting go doesn't require force or violence against yourself. It requires awareness and willingness, seeing clearly and choosing consciously. When you see clearly that something is causing you to suffer, and you see that you have a choice about whether to keep holding it, the letting go can happen naturally, the way your hand naturally opens when you realize you're holding something hot that's burning you. There's a radical practice hidden in plain sight, something so simple you might overlook it entirely, might think it couldn't possibly matter. It's the practice of enjoying your breath, not controlling it, not trying to breathe better or deeper or more correctly or more spiritually, not using it to achieve some special state or prove you're good at meditation or earn enlightenment points. Just enjoying it, taking genuine pleasure in it, taking pleasure in the simple fact that you're breathing, that air is entering your body and leaving your body, that this most basic process is happening right now, without you having to manage it, or earn it, or deserve it, or work for it. When you breathe in, and you know you're breathing in, you can smile. Not a forced smile, not a fake smile plastered on to look spiritual, but the smile that comes naturally when you're present for something good, something miraculous that you'd forgotten to notice in your rush through life. Think of your consciousness like a garden with many different kinds of seeds planted in the soil. Some seeds are wholesome, seeds of joy, compassion, understanding, peace, love, gratitude, kindness. Some seeds are unwholesome, seeds of anger, fear, jealousy, craving, despair, resentment, bitterness. All the seeds are there in everyone, in every human being, waiting in the dark soil. Which seeds grow into plants? Which ones dominate your inner landscape? depends entirely on which seeds you water. If you spend your day reading news designed to make you angry, watching shows that feed your fear, scrolling through posts that trigger your envy and inadequacy, replaying memories that stoke your resentment, rehearsing arguments with people who aren't even there, you're watering unwholesome seeds. Those are the plants that will grow in your garden, that will dominate your inner landscape, that will determine the quality of your experience, the flavor of your life. But if you take time to notice what's beautiful around you, to appreciate what's working in your life alongside what isn't, to feel gratitude for small things like hot water and comfortable shoes, to generate kindness toward yourself and others, to remember moments of joy and connection, you're watering wholesome seeds. Those are the plants that will grow instead, that will flower and offer their fragrance. You have agency in this, real power, real choice. You're not a victim of whatever seeds happen to sprout randomly at the mercy of your conditioning. You're the gardener, choosing moment by moment which seeds to water with your attention, which plants to cultivate with your care, what kind of garden you want to grow in your consciousness, what you want to bloom in the landscape of your mind. Every morning when you wake up, you're given a gift, 24 brand new hours that have never existed before. These hours are completely fresh, completely unused, completely full of possibility and potential. What you do with them is up to you, is your choice, is your life unfolding. You can spend them worrying about what might go wrong, or you can spend them noticing what's going right. You can spend them rushing through on autopilot, numb and distracted, or you can spend them actually living, actually present, actually here in your own life. There's a simple verse that monks and nuns learn when they first begin practicing, something to recite silently when you first wake up. Waking up this morning, I smile. I have 24 brand new hours to live. I vow to live them deeply and to look at all beings with the eyes of compassion. You don't have to be a monk or a nun to do this, to start your day this way. You can begin each morning with awareness, with intention, with gratitude for another day of being alive, with the vow to not waste these precious hours, to actually live them rather than just get through them, to be present rather than sleepwalking. The practice can infuse the most ordinary moments with meaning and presence. Brushing your teeth in the morning, you can do it while thinking about everything you have to do today, all the problems waiting for you, letting anxiety build before you've even left the bathroom. Or you can do it with full attention, enjoying the fresh taste of toothpaste, the clean feeling grateful that you have teeth to brush and clean water to rinse with, and that your body is working well enough to stand here doing this simple thing. Walking from your bedroom to your kitchen, you can do it lost in thought, already mentally at work, or replaying yesterday's difficulties, or worrying about tomorrow's challenges. Or you can feel your feet touching the floor with each step. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin. See the morning light coming through a window. Make those 10 or 20 steps into a walking meditation, a return to your body and to the present moment, a coming home. Drinking your first sip of water or coffee or tea You can gulp it down without tasting it, just fuel to start the day. Or you can pause and really experience it, feeling the temperature on your lips, the texture in your mouth, the way it wakes up your senses, making it a small ceremony of gratitude rather than just another thing to consume mindlessly. These tiny moments add up to your life, these breaths and steps and sips. If you're not present for them, you're not present for your life. You're missing it. But when you bring awareness to them, when you actually experience them, instead of just moving through them unconsciously on autopilot, something remarkable happens. Ordinary moments become extraordinary. The mundane becomes meaningful. The routine becomes a practice, becomes sacred. Once at a large gathering where the Buddha was teaching, there were hundreds of people sitting together listening, absorbing his words about suffering and liberation. Among them were 4 young mothers, each holding a baby in her arms. The babies were nursing while their mothers listened to the teaching about suffering and the end of suffering, about mindfulness and peace and the path to freedom. The babies were consuming milk from their mothers' bodies. That was the obvious food they were receiving, the visible nourishment. But they were also consuming something else, something less visible, but equally nourishing, equally important. They were consuming the peace and mindfulness of the whole gathering, of all these people sitting together in awareness. They were consuming the energy of all these people sitting together in awareness, in silence, in collective calm and concentration. That peace was entering them through their mother's milk, through their mother's heartbeat, through the very atmosphere they were breathing, the energy field they were resting in. You're consuming things all the time too, not just food, but energy, atmosphere, information, the quality of the environments you inhabit and the company you keep. When you spend time with people who are anxious and agitated, their anxiety affects you, seeps into you. When you spend time in places that are frenetic and harsh, that frenetic harshness enters you, becomes part of your inner state. When you consume media designed to agitate and provoke and outrage, that agitation becomes part of your inner landscape, colors your experience of everything. But the opposite is also true, and this is the good news. When you spend time in environments of peace, whether that's sitting quietly in nature, being with people who practice mindfulness and compassion, reading words that nourish wisdom and understanding, or simply sitting in your own home, breathing mindfully, you're consuming peace, and that peace becomes part of you, grows in you, strengthens in you. You are an artist, whether you think of yourself that way or not, whether you've ever picked up a paintbrush or written a poem. You're an artist whose medium is your own consciousness, your own experience, your own moment-to-moment life. Every moment, you're creating your inner state through what you pay attention to, creating your experience through how you relate to what's happening, creating your life through the choices you make about where to direct your energy and awareness and care. A skilled artist knows how to create moments of beauty, moments of meaning, moments that matter and resonate and touch something true. You can develop that same skill with your own life, with your own consciousness. You can learn to create moments of happiness not by waiting for perfect conditions to arrive from outside, not by trying to control everything around you, but by bringing awareness and appreciation to what's already here, what's already available, what's already true. Someone might say, "That's easy for you to say, but you don't know what I'm dealing with. You don't understand. You don't know how much stress I'm under, how many problems I have, how difficult my circumstances are, how much I'm struggling just to get through each day." And that's true. I don't know your specific circumstances, your specific struggles, your specific pain. But what I do know is that you have this moment, right now, this very moment. And in this moment, you're breathing. Air is moving in and out of your lungs. In this moment, you're alive. Your heart is beating. Consciousness is present. In this moment, there are conditions of happiness available. Maybe not all the conditions you wish you had. Maybe not the circumstances you'd choose if you could design your life perfectly, but some conditions, some possibilities for noticing what's good, even while acknowledging what's difficult. The practice isn't about denying your problems or pretending everything is wonderful when it's not, when you're clearly struggling. The practice is about not adding unnecessary suffering on top of the necessary difficulties, about not losing touch with what's still good while you navigate what's hard, about not letting your struggles consume 100% of your awareness when maybe they only need to occupy 70%, leaving 30% available for noticing that the sun is still shining, that your heart is still beating, that kindness still exists in the world, that not everything is broken. When you let go of the cows that are weighing you down, the unnecessary beliefs and attachments and worries that create suffering beyond what life naturally brings, you create space, you create openness, you create room. And in that space, joy can enter naturally, organically, without force. Not the joy that depends on everything being perfect, but the joy that comes from being fully alive, fully present, grateful for the gift of this moment, this breath, this one precious and irreplaceable life that you're living right now. There are certain phrases that, when spoken with genuine presence and mindfulness, have the power to transform relationships, to heal wounds, to create connection where there was distance. These aren't just words. They're like magic formulas, incantations that shift energy and open hearts. In the Buddhist tradition, we call them mantras. A mantra is a sacred phrase that, when recited with concentration and sincerity, produces a real effect in the world. The mantras we're going to explore aren't in Sanskrit or Pali. They're in plain language, simple words that anyone can say. But their simplicity doesn't diminish their power. When you speak them with true mindfulness, when you really mean them, they can change everything. The first mantra is, "I am here for you." To love someone means, first of all, to be there for them. But being there isn't as simple as it sounds. You can be in the same room with someone and not be there at all. Your body present, but your mind somewhere else entirely, lost in your phone or your worries or your plans. This mantra requires that you first be present for yourself. You practice mindful breathing to bring your mind home to your body. You stop whatever else you're doing, whatever else is pulling at your attention. Then, when you're truly there, body and mind united, you can offer that presence to someone you love. Imagine a child comes home from school, upset about something that happened. They walk in the door, and you can see it on their face. Something is wrong. You could stay on your computer, half listening while typing an email, saying, "Aha," at intervals, without really hearing them. Or you could stop, turn toward them fully, look in their eyes and say, and truly mean, "I am here for you." Those 5 words tell them, "You matter to me more than this email, more than whatever I was just doing. I'm not just physically present, I'm giving you my full attention, my full heart. You're not alone with whatever you're feeling." The same applies to your partner, your friend, your parent. When someone you care about is suffering, the greatest gift you can offer isn't advice or solutions. It's your genuine presence. I am here for you, not in 5 minutes after you finish this task, not while simultaneously scrolling through your phone, but right now, completely, with everything you have. The second mantra is, "I know you are there, and it makes me very happy." Everyone wants to be seen, to be recognized, to know that their presence matters to someone. This mantra acknowledges the other person's existence and expresses gratitude for it. You can say this to your partner in the morning, "Darling, I know you are there, and it makes me very happy." You're saying, "Your presence in my life isn't something I take for granted. The fact that you exist, that you're here, that I get to share this life with you, this brings me joy." A man comes home from work, stressed and preoccupied, barely registering that his wife is there. They move around each other like roommates, like strangers, each absorbed in their own world. But one evening, he stops. He practices breathing, brings himself fully present, and then looks at her and says, "I want you to know that I see you here, and I'm so grateful you exist, that you're in my life." Her face changes immediately. When was the last time someone really saw her, really acknowledged her presence as a gift? Not what she does for them, not her usefulness, but simply her being, the miracle that she exists, that she's here. This mantra works with children too, with friends, with anyone you love. I see you there, and you make me happy. It's a way of saying, you're not invisible to me. Your existence matters. I notice you, and noticing you brings light into my day. The third mantra is, I know you suffer, and that is why I am here for you. This mantra is for when you notice that someone you love is suffering. If you're truly present, truly paying attention, you'll notice when something is wrong, when their smile doesn't reach their eyes, when their shoulders are carrying tension, when something heavy is weighing on them. You don't need to know exactly what's wrong or how to fix it. You just need to acknowledge what you see and offer your presence. Darling, I know something is hurting you, and I'm here. A woman notices her teenage son has been quiet for days, withdrawn in a way that's unusual for him. She could ignore it, tell herself he's just being a teenager, that he'll get over it. Or she could go to him, sit beside him, and say, I can see you're struggling with something, and I want you to know I'm here. You don't have to tell me what it is if you're not ready, but I want you to know I see you, and I'm not going anywhere. Sometimes just being seen in our pain, just having someone acknowledge that, yes, this is hard, this hurts, that alone brings relief. We're suffering, and then our suffering is compounded by feeling invisible in it, by everyone pretending everything is fine, by having to hold up a facade that nothing is wrong. This mantra breaks through that isolation. It says, I see your pain. You don't have to hide it from me. Your suffering matters to me because you matter to me. The fourth mantra is the hardest and perhaps the most important. I suffer, please help. This one goes against everything we've been taught about being strong, about handling things on our own, about not being a burden. Pride makes this mantra almost impossible to say. We want to appear like we have it all together, like we don't need anyone, like we're fine, always fine. But this mantra recognizes a simple truth. We need each other. Love isn't about never needing help. It's about being able to ask for it, about trusting someone enough to show them your vulnerability. When you're suffering and you believe someone you love has caused that suffering, your impulse might be to punish them. You want to show them you don't need them, that you're perfectly fine without them. You lock yourself in your room. You give them the silent treatment. You build walls. But the fourth mantra asks you to do the opposite. It asks you to go to them and say, I'm hurting and I need your help. The full version is even more powerful. Darling, I suffer. I don't understand why you said that thing to me. I don't understand why you did what you did. It hurt me, and I need you to help me understand. Please explain so that I can suffer less. This mantra has 3 parts. First, you acknowledge your suffering honestly. No pretending, no tough exterior. Second, you let them know you're practicing with it. I'm doing my best to understand, to breathe with this pain, to not react blindly. Third, you ask for their help. Please, help me understand what happened. Here's a practical suggestion. Write this mantra on a small card, the size of a credit card, and keep it in your wallet. The next time you're suffering and tempted to withdraw, to punish with silence, to build walls, take out that card and read it. You have 24 hours to use this mantra before pride hardens into something more difficult to break. When you finally speak this mantra with sincerity, something shifts immediately. The other person sees that you're suffering, that this isn't just drama or manipulation, that you genuinely need their help. And most people, when they see someone they love is truly hurting, want to help, they want to understand, They want to make it better. The fifth mantra is, this is a happy moment. This mantra isn't about pretending everything is perfect when it's not. It's about recognizing the conditions for happiness that actually exist right now, in this very moment, even when things aren't ideal. You're sitting with someone you love. You're walking together on an ordinary day. You're having a simple meal, and you pause. You look around, you feel the moment, and you say, out loud or silently, this is a happy moment. A father and daughter are washing dishes together after dinner. It's a mundane task, nothing special. But he stops for a moment, looks at his daughter's face as she scrubs a plate, and thinks, this is a happy moment. Right now, this simple task with my child, this is happiness. By naming it, by acknowledging it, he makes the happiness conscious, makes it real, makes it available to be fully experienced, rather than just passing by unnoticed in the rush towards something else. This mantra trains us to recognize happiness when it's present, instead of always thinking happiness is somewhere else, sometime else, dependent on conditions we don't yet have. Happiness isn't waiting in the future after you achieve certain things. It's available right now, in this breath, in this moment, in this connection, with someone you care about. You can practice this mantra throughout your day. Drinking your morning coffee, this is a happy moment. Feeling the sun on your face, this is a happy moment. Hearing your partner's voice, this is a happy moment. Not because everything in your life is perfect, but because you're alive, aware, able to touch the good that exists alongside the difficult. The sixth mantra is, you are partly right. This mantra is medicine for the ego, for the tendency to see ourselves as either completely right or completely wrong, completely good or completely bad. When someone praises you, when they tell you you're wonderful, the best, perfect, you can respond with this mantra. You are partly right. Yes, I have good qualities, but I also have weaknesses, flaws, areas where I struggle. I'm not the perfect image you're projecting onto me. I'm human, which means complex, which means both good and not so good, all mixed together. When someone criticizes you, when they point out your failures or mistakes, you can use the same mantra. You are partly right. Yes, I have flaws. I made mistakes. There are things I could do better. But I'm not the complete failure you're seeing in this moment. I also have strengths, gifts, good intentions, areas where I'm doing well. This mantra keeps you balanced, grounded in reality, rather than swinging between inflation and deflation, between thinking you're the best or the worst. It allows you to receive both praise and criticism without losing your center, without getting lost in either arrogance or despair. A young woman at work receives glowing feedback from her boss. You're brilliant, the best we've ever had, absolutely exceptional. She could let this go to her head, start believing she's superior to everyone else, get inflated with pride. Or she could think quietly to herself, you're partly right. Yes, I worked hard on that project. I did contribute something valuable, and I also made mistakes you didn't see. I also had help from others. I also have plenty to learn. Later that week, a colleague criticizes her harshly. You don't know what you're doing. You're in over your head. You're not qualified for this role. She could collapse into shame, believe she's completely inadequate. Let this criticism destroy her confidence. Or she can think, you're partly right. Yes, there are aspects of this role I'm still learning, areas where I could improve, and I also bring value. I also have skills and insights that matter. I also belong here. The mantra protects you from the extremes, helps you stay in touch with the truth that you're human, not perfect, not worthless, but complex, growing, both capable and flawed at the same time. These 6 mantras are tools for creating love, for healing relationships, for maintaining connection, even through difficulty. But there's another practice that makes all of these mantras more powerful, that creates the ground for them to work, the practice of deep listening. Most of us don't really listen. We wait for our turn to talk. We formulate our response while the other person is still speaking. We interrupt to correct, to defend, to explain why they're wrong or why we're right. We listen to judge, to argue, to fix, to give advice, but we don't listen to truly understand, to give relief, to offer the healing that comes simply from being heard. Deep listening, compassionate listening, is a practice. It's not something that comes naturally, especially when someone is saying things that are difficult to hear, things that touch our own pain or trigger our defensiveness. When you practice deep listening, you have only one purpose: to give the other person the opportunity to speak and to suffer less. You're not listening to gather evidence for your counter-argument. You're not listening to find the flaws in their logic. You're listening so that they can empty out their suffering, express what's been trapped inside them, feel the relief of being heard. This requires tremendous concentration and self-control. As they speak, you practice mindful breathing to remain calm, to keep your heart open, to not let their words trigger your own reactive patterns. Your breath becomes your anchor, the thing you return to again and again as you hold space for their pain. A couple had been married for 15 years, and they'd reached a point where they could barely talk without fighting. Every conversation became an argument. Every attempt at discussion turned into accusations and defensiveness. They loved each other, but they'd forgotten how to communicate, how to really hear each other beneath the words. Someone taught them the practice of deep listening. They agreed to try it, even though it felt awkward at first, even though both were skeptical that something so simple could help. They set aside 1 hour. For the first 30 minutes, she would speak and he would only listen. No interrupting, no defending, no explaining, just breathing and listening with the intention to understand her suffering. Then they would switch, and she would listen to him for 30 minutes in the same way. The husband sat there, breathing consciously, as his wife began to speak. She talked about feeling invisible, about how he came home from work and disappeared into his phone, about how she felt alone, even when they were in the same room. She talked about things that happened years ago that still hurt, things he thought she'd forgiven or forgotten. His impulse was to interrupt, to defend himself, to explain that she was misunderstanding, that he didn't mean it that way, that she was being unfair. But he kept breathing, kept bringing his attention back to his breath, kept reminding himself, I'm not listening to defend myself. I'm listening so she can suffer less. And something remarkable happened. As she spoke and felt truly heard, maybe for the first time in years, her voice changed. The anger softened into sadness. The accusations transformed into vulnerability. She wasn't attacking him. She was showing him her wounds, trusting him with her pain. When it was his turn to speak, she saw things she'd never seen before. She'd thought he was cold, distant, uncaring. But as she listened, really listened, without planning her rebuttal, she heard his loneliness, his feeling of inadequacy, his fear that he wasn't enough, that he was failing her and their children. She heard a man who loved her, but didn't know how to show it, who felt lost and was hiding his lostness behind screens and work and withdrawal. By the end of that hour, something had shifted between them. They hadn't solved all their problems, hadn't fixed everything that was wrong, hadn't agreed on every point, but they'd heard each other, really heard each other, perhaps for the first time in years. And in that hearing, in that being heard, healing had begun. There's a technique that can help with this practice, especially in difficult moments. When you're having a conversation with someone you love, and you sense that they're about to say something that might trigger your anger or defensiveness, you can hold their hand. And you can agree beforehand, if I squeeze your hand, that's my bell of mindfulness. It means stop talking and breathe. So your partner is speaking, sharing something difficult, and you feel your anger rising, your defensiveness preparing to strike back. Instead of lashing out, you gently squeeze their hand, not hard, not aggressively, just a gentle reminder. They feel the squeeze and stop talking. Both of you breathe together, 3 breaths, maybe 5, just breathing and coming back to presence, coming back to the intention to understand rather than to win. Then they can continue, and you continue listening with renewed calm. This simple technique can prevent so much damage, can stop the spiral of hurt feelings and harsh words before it starts. It's a way of being each other's support in the practice, of helping each other stay present and loving even when things are difficult. The transformation that happens when someone feels truly heard is profound and immediate. You've probably experienced this yourself. That moment when someone really listens to you, when you can feel their full attention, their genuine care, their willingness to be present with your pain without trying to fix it or minimize it, or rush you through it. Something releases inside you. The tightness in your chest loosens. The desperate need to make them understand subsides because you feel understood. The anger that was covering hurt transforms into vulnerability, into truth, into connection. This is medicine, not metaphorical medicine, but actual healing that happens in your body, your heart, your relationship. When you're heard, you suffer less. When you listen deeply, you give relief. This is love in action, love that heals. You can start tonight. You don't need special training or years of practice or perfect conditions. You just need the willingness to try, to practice, to offer your presence to someone you care about. Maybe tonight you go to someone in your household and say, "I am here for you," or "I know you are there, and it makes me happy," or simply, "Is there something you'd like to tell me? I'm ready to listen." And then you listen, really listen, breathing consciously, keeping your heart open, not interrupting or defending or explaining, just receiving what they offer, holding space for their truth, giving them the gift of your full attention. This is how relationships heal. This is how love grows deeper. This is how we move from isolation to connection, from misunderstanding to seeing each other clearly, from suffering separately to holding each other's pain with tenderness and care. The 6 mantras and the practice of deep listening aren't just techniques or strategies. They're expressions of mindfulness in action, ways of bringing presence and compassion into your most important relationships, ways of creating the conditions for love to not just survive, but flourish, even through difficulty. When you practice these things, when you really commit to being present for the people you love, something beautiful unfolds. You discover that love isn't just a feeling that comes and goes randomly, dependent on circumstances and moods. Love is a practice, something you cultivate through attention and care, something you create moment by moment through the choices you make about how to be with each other. And in that practice, in that cultivation, you find that love becomes the healing force it was always meant to be, not perfect, not easy, but real, deep, transformative, capable of holding everything, capable of healing everything, when tended with patience and presence and genuine care. There's a truth about suffering that's both sobering and liberating. Your suffering is never yours, alone. When you hurt, when you struggle, when you feel lost or afraid or overwhelmed, you might think you're isolated in that experience, that your pain is uniquely yours, happening only to you. But every feeling you've ever felt, every difficulty you've ever faced, connects you to countless others who are feeling the same thing right now, who have felt it before, who will feel it again. Your loneliness is the world's loneliness. Your anxiety is the world's anxiety. Your grief is the world's grief. And this means 2 things. First, that you're not as alone as you think you are. And second, that when you heal yourself, you're healing something larger than yourself. On September 11th, 2001, I was in California, preparing to give a talk that evening, when the news came of what had happened in New York, in Washington, in Pennsylvania. The whole country, the whole world went into shock, into fear, into a collective trauma that we could all feel even thousands of miles from where the attacks occurred. That evening, Hundreds of people still came to the talk, perhaps more than would have come ordinarily. They needed to be together, needed to not be alone with their fear, needed some kind of anchor in the storm of emotion that was sweeping across the nation. The energy in the room was palpable, thick with grief, with shock, with anger beginning to form, with fear about what would come next. You could feel it pressing down on everyone, this collective weight. If you weren't mindful, if you weren't careful, you could be swept away by it, consumed by it, lose yourself entirely in that massive wave of reactive emotion. So that night, I spoke about how to handle strong emotions, how to recognize fear when it arises, how to breathe with it, how to not be carried away by the collective energy even when it's overwhelming, even when it feels like it's going to swallow everything. Because here's what's dangerous about collective emotion. When a whole community, a whole nation, is gripped by the same feeling, whether it's fear, anger, or hatred, that energy becomes enormously powerful. It can lead to actions we would never take individually, decisions made from panic rather than wisdom, violence committed in the name of safety or justice or revenge. In those moments, mindfulness becomes not just a personal practice but a collective necessity. Someone needs to stop, to breathe, to maintain calm and clarity while the storm rages. Someone needs to be the anchor, the reminder that we have a choice about how we respond, even to the most terrible things. This is why community matters so much, why practicing with others, what we call Sangha, is considered one of the 3 refuges in Buddhism, alongside the Buddha and the teachings themselves. When you're drowning in your own fear, or anger, or despair, it can feel impossible to generate enough mindfulness on your own to stay afloat. But when you're part of a community that practices together, you can borrow their mindfulness, draw on their collective energy, let their calm support you until you can find your own ground again. Imagine walking into a room where 20 people are sitting in meditation, breathing peacefully, cultivating calm and presence. Even if you arrive agitated, anxious, your mind racing, just being in that space, breathing that air, feeling that collective energy begins to affect you. You don't have to do it alone. You can lean on the Sangha's practice until your own practice strengthens. This works in both directions. When you practice mindfulness, when you cultivate peace in yourself, you're not just helping yourself, you're contributing to the collective energy, creating a field of calm that others can draw from, offering your stability to support those who are struggling. But what if you don't have a Sangha? What if you're surrounded by people who don't practice mindfulness, who might even be actively creating suffering, a toxic workplace, a difficult family situation, an environment where stress and reactivity are the norm? Even then, you can create a refuge. It might be small at first, maybe just one corner of your desk where you keep something that reminds you to breathe, to be present, a smooth stone, a small plant, a picture that brings you peace. When the environment around you becomes overwhelming, you can return to that corner, take 3 conscious breaths, remember who you are beneath the stress. Or it might be a practice you do alone in your car before going into work. 5 minutes of mindful breathing while sitting in the parking lot, creating an inner sanctuary that you carry with you into whatever chaos awaits. One woman worked in a high-pressure corporate environment where everyone was constantly stressed, where the culture encouraged overwork and competition, where taking a real lunch break or leaving at a reasonable hour was seen as weakness. She felt herself being pulled into that energy, felt it affecting her health, her relationships, her peace of mind. She couldn't change the whole company culture, couldn't make everyone around her suddenly start practicing mindfulness, but she could create her own small refuge. She started taking walking meditation breaks, just 10 minutes here and there, walking slowly and mindfully in a little park near her office, practicing, "I have arrived, I am home," with each step. People thought she was strange at first, wondered why she was walking so slowly, why she wasn't on her phone or rushing somewhere. But over time, some of her colleagues started asking about it, started joining her occasionally, curious about this different way of being in the middle of the workday chaos. She had created a small sangha without even trying, just by maintaining her own practice, by refusing to be completely consumed by the toxic energy around her, by being a reminder that there's another way to live even in difficult circumstances. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions to practice. You don't have to wait until you find the ideal community, or the perfect teacher, or the right environment. You can start where you are, with what you have, creating small refuges that gradually expand, offering your own peace as a gift to a world that desperately needs it. There's an old story about the Buddha and Mara, Mara being the personification of everything that creates suffering, everything that pulls us away from peace and clarity. In the story, Mara ruled the world, and there was tremendous suffering everywhere. War, violence, hatred, people constantly harming each other and themselves. But people held on to hope, telling themselves, where there is Mara, there must also be Buddha. The Buddha will come eventually, and then things will change. When the Buddha finally appeared and achieved enlightenment, Mara was curious about this person who sat so peacefully while the world was so chaotic. He approached the Buddha and asked what he wanted, what he was doing there. The Buddha said simply, "This earth is beautiful. I want the chance to sit peacefully and walk mindfully on this beautiful planet. I don't need to own anything or control anything. I just want to be able to walk in peace, to enjoy this miraculous world." Mara thought this seemed reasonable. If someone just wants to sit and walk peacefully, not causing trouble, not trying to take over, what harm could that do? So he agreed. You can have a place to practice, a space for your sitting and walking. After a while, the Buddha said, "I have some friends who also want to practice sitting and walking mindfully. Could we have a bit more space for all of us?" Mara asked, "How much space do you need?" The Buddha took off his outer robe and said, "I will throw this robe up into the air, and whatever shadow it casts on the earth, that's the space we need." Mara thought this was more than reasonable. How much space could one robe possibly cover? A few square meters at most. So he agreed. The Buddha threw his robe high into the sky, and it rose, and rose, and opened wide, and its shadow fell over the entire earth. From that moment, the whole planet became the territory of mindfulness, of peace, of the practice of being truly present and alive. The story is saying something important. This earth belongs to everyone who practices mindfulness and compassion, everyone who walks peacefully, everyone who cultivates understanding and love. You have the right to practice anywhere, to bring presence and peace wherever you go. The whole world is your practice space, your Sangha hall, your place of refuge. You can practice walking meditation in a forest, yes, but you can also practice it walking from your car to your office, from your bedroom to your kitchen, through a crowded airport, down a city street, filled with noise and rush. Walking meditation is a way of coming home to yourself, to your body, to the present moment, with each step you take. The practice is beautifully simple. As you walk, you coordinate your breathing with your steps. Perhaps you take 2 or 3 steps with each in-breath, 3 or 4 steps with each out-breath, whatever feels natural, whatever allows you to walk comfortably without forcing your breath. And with each step, you can practice a short phrase, a kind of mantra that brings you home. I have arrived. I am home. I have arrived. You're not trying to get anywhere anymore, not rushing towards some future moment when things will be better. You've arrived at the only moment that exists, the only place where life is actually happening. Right here, right now. I am home. Home isn't a building somewhere, isn't a place on a map. Home is being present in your body, in this moment, fully alive and aware. When you breathe mindfully and walk with awareness, you're home no matter where you are geographically. Most of us have lost the ability to simply be where we are. Even when our body is in one place, our mind is somewhere else, already at our destination, still in the past, lost in planning, or worrying, or replaying, or imagining. We're walking, but we're not really walking. We're just moving through space, while our mind races ahead or lags behind. Walking meditation is a practice of reclaiming your life, of actually living your moments instead of just passing through them on your way to somewhere else. The miracle, the Buddha said, is not walking on water. Many people are impressed by supernatural feats, by displays of spiritual power. But the real miracle is walking on the earth, being fully present for each step, experiencing the wonder of being alive, of being able to move through this world, of having feet that work and ground beneath you, and air to breathe. Think about astronauts who spend months in space, floating in that artificial environment, far from the earth. When they return, when they finally set foot on solid ground again, they don't take it for granted. They feel the miraculous nature of something we completely overlook, the ability to walk on this planet, to feel gravity holding us, to take steps on this beautiful earth. We don't have to go to space to appreciate this miracle. We just have to wake up, to pay attention, to actually be present for what's already here. Each step can be a revolution against the habit of running. We're so conditioned to rush, to always be moving toward the next thing, to treat the present moment as an obstacle between us and where we want to be. Walking meditation is a form of resistance against that tyranny of constant rushing, constant seeking, constant dissatisfaction with what is. With each mindful step, you're saying, this moment is enough. This step is enough. I don't need to be anywhere other than where I am right now. I'm not going to let my whole life pass by unfelt, unnoticed, unlived while I'm busy trying to get somewhere else. At first, walking slowly and mindfully might feel strange, even uncomfortable. You might feel self-conscious, like everyone is watching you, wondering why you're walking so slowly when the world is rushing by. You might feel impatient with yourself, frustrated by the slowness, eager to just get wherever you're going. But gradually, as you practice, something shifts. The quality of your steps changes. You begin to feel each foot making contact with the ground. Feel the earth supporting you. Feel the miracle of movement, of balance, of being alive in a body that can walk. You don't have to walk slowly all the time. You can practice walking meditation at a normal pace, even at a brisk pace, if that's what the situation requires. The slowness isn't the point. The awareness is the point. The presence is the point. The coming home to your body and your breath with each step is the point. You can do this in the supermarket, walking down the aisle, pushing your cart. Instead of being lost in your shopping list or your thoughts about dinner or your worries about money, you can feel each step, coordinate it with your breath, come back to the simple fact that you're alive, walking, here. You can do this at work, walking from one meeting to another. Instead of letting your mind race ahead to what's coming next or replay what just happened, you can use those transition moments as opportunities to practice, to reset, to come back to presence before entering the next situation. You can do this walking to your car at the end of a long day. Instead of carrying all the stress and tension from the day into your car, into your commute, into your home, you can let each step be a step of release, of letting go, of gradually returning to yourself. You can even do this in small spaces, walking back and forth in your room, walking around your kitchen while waiting for water to boil, walking from your bed to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Anytime you're walking, you have an opportunity to practice, to come home, to be present for your life. A man who worked in a busy hospital, surrounded all day by stress and crisis and suffering, started practicing walking meditation in the hallways between patient rooms. Just a few steps taken mindfully, just a few breaths coordinated with his movement, just a moment of arriving in his body before walking into the next difficult situation. His colleagues noticed something different about him. He seemed calmer, more grounded, less frazzled by the constant demands. Some of them asked what he was doing, and he taught them the practice. Soon there were several staff members taking walking meditation breaks, using the space between tasks as opportunities for practice, rather than just rushing mindlessly from one thing to the next. The whole atmosphere of that floor began to shift subtly. It was still a hospital, still stressful, still dealing with serious illness and suffering. But there were these pockets of peace, these moments of mindfulness, these people who were choosing to walk their steps differently, to be present for their lives, even in the middle of chaos. This is how change happens, not through grand gestures or perfect conditions, but through small practices done consistently, through individuals choosing to walk peacefully on this earth, even when the world around them is rushing and suffering and forgetting. When you practice like this, when you walk mindfully, even for just a few steps a day, you're doing it not just for yourself, but for everyone. You're proving that it's possible to slow down, to be present, to find peace in the midst of activity. You're creating a small field of mindfulness that others can feel and maybe, eventually, enter. You are not alone in this practice, even when you practice alone. You're connected to everyone else who has ever practiced mindful walking, everyone who has ever chosen presence over rushing, everyone who has ever said, "I have arrived, I am home," and actually meant it. You're connected to the Buddha himself, who walked mindfully 26 centuries ago on dirt paths in India, whose footsteps are still reverberating through time, still showing us how to walk peacefully on this earth. You're connected to people practicing right now in monasteries, in prisons, in hospitals, in their homes, on city streets, in quiet forests. All over this planet, people are taking mindful steps, coming home to themselves, choosing to actually live their moments instead of just passing through them. And you're contributing to the collective consciousness of humanity, adding your small offering of peace and presence to the whole, making it easier for the next person to stop running, to arrive, to come home. The Buddha's robe covers the whole earth, remember? Wherever you are is practice space. Wherever you walk is holy ground. This moment, this step, this breath, this is it. This is your life, happening right now. And you have everything you need to be present for it, to arrive fully, to come home. You are not alone in your suffering, and you are not alone in your practice. We heal together, step by step, breath by breath, moment by moment, supporting each other in the great work of waking up, of being truly alive, of walking peacefully on this beautiful earth that holds us all. Every breath you're taking right now is an act of reclaiming your life, of choosing presence over absence, of saying yes to this moment, even when it's imperfect. With each conscious breath, you're taking back territory from worry, from regret, from the endless running that has stolen so much of your precious time on this earth. Remember the lotus in the mud. That's what's happening in you right now, has been happening as you've listened, as you've practiced, even in small ways. The suffering you've carried, your own, and what you've inherited, that's the mud. And the insight blooming in you, the compassion growing, the moments of peace you're finding, that's the flower. They're not separate, not enemies. One makes the other possible. You already have everything you need. Not everything you want, perhaps. Not all the conditions you wish were different. But everything required for this moment of peace, for this breath of freedom, for this step toward home, it's already here, already yours, already available, if you simply stop and notice. These practices we've explored aren't work you have to do to earn happiness someday. They're ways of returning home to yourself, of remembering what you've always known but forgotten, that life is here, now, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this one irreplaceable moment. You started in mud, and you're becoming a lotus. Not by rejecting the mud, but by allowing it to nourish what wants to bloom in you.